My name is Michael Reynolds. I'm 42. I used to be a firefighter in Austin, Texas. I've dragged people out of burning houses, stitched wounds in the back of ambulances, and seen death stare me in the face. But nothing prepared me for the moment I found out my own wife, the woman I'd loved, trusted, and built a life with, had taken everything I ever earned and handed it over to her lover. It wasn't a rumor. It wasn't some suspicion. It was right there, in my inbox. A single email. Subject line: Final confirmation, business launch transfer. I was sitting at my kitchen table, drinking black coffee from a chipped mug she gave me 5 Christmases ago. The dog was at my feet. The house was silent, peaceful. But when I opened that PDF, my world didn't just shift, it collapsed. $280,000 gone. Just like that. Drained from our joint account over 4 transactions. Transferred to a company I had never heard of. Registered to my wife and a man named Jacob Roman. I didn't know who Jacob Roman was. Not yet. But I was about to. Pause. See, we've been saving that money for 10 years. Every overtime shift I pulled, every bonus I saved, every vacation we skipped, all of it had one purpose: our dream home. A cabin in Colorado. Something peaceful after years of chaos. She said she wanted that too. She said she was tired of the noise. Tired of the fire alarms in the middle of the night. Tired of worrying if I'd make it home after every call. I believed her. But the truth is, while I was fighting flames and breathing smoke, she was building a future with another man, with my money. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't punch a wall. I just stared at the screen for a long time, letting it all sink in, letting it settle. And when it did, I made a decision. Short pause. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I wasn't going to demand anything. I wasn't going to beg or break. No. I was going to burn it all down, but not with fire. With silence. With precision. With patience. Slow, final line for dramatic impact. She had no idea what I'd do next, and that's exactly how I wanted it. I met Claire at a coffee shop in downtown Austin. It was raining that day. I remember because she walked in, soaked to the bone, holding her broken umbrella like it had betrayed her. She ordered chamomile tea, sat 2 tables away, and started reading a book I'd read in college, Into the Wild. I smiled. She caught me looking. I offered her my dry napkin. That was it. That was the start. 6 months later, we moved in together. A year after that, we got married under a big oak tree in her aunt's backyard. Small ceremony. Just friends, family, and the Texas wind whispering through the branches. Claire was warm. Kind. She had this laugh. It sounded like someone trying not to laugh. You could tell she was holding back joy, like it wasn't polite to be that happy in front of strangers. She was a high school art teacher when we met. She had dreams of opening a little studio someday. Maybe teach kids. Sell handmade cards on Etsy. I used to joke that she'd never make money from watercolors, and she'd laugh and say, "Then you better keep saving, fireman." I thought we were building something together. I really did. Every month, we put a little away. Sometimes just $500, sometimes $2,000 when I worked double shifts. We didn't live fancy. Used cars. Rented house. No kids, by choice. We said we'd wait until we could give them a home we owned. We were practical. Smart. Partners. At least, that's what I thought. There were red flags. Hindsight always highlights them. She stopped going out with my friends after year 5. She said they were too loud, too drunk, too immature. I believed her. She started sleeping early, always tired. Long days at school, she said. Grading papers. I brought her coffee. She smiled, kissed me, said I was the best. She stopped talking about the studio, said her dream had changed, said she wanted to manage something bigger. She never said what, but I didn't ask. I was working 70-hour weeks, pulling people out of flipped trucks, clearing brush fires, counseling young recruits. I was tired too. We started ordering in more, watching shows on separate screens. Sex turned into quick kisses, then forehead pecks, then just quiet nods in the hallway. Still, I thought that's what happens in long marriages. You settle, you grow quiet, you ride the wave. But there were good days too. Like Sundays. We always made breakfast together on Sundays. Pancakes, eggs, jazz music playing in the background. She danced barefoot in the kitchen. I still see that image sometimes. Her spinning with a spatula in hand, laughing like a teenager. She used to call me her hero. But one day she stopped. No fight. No argument. Just a change. Like someone flipped a switch inside her and forgot to flip it back. She started texting more, smiling at her phone when I wasn't looking. She said it was her sister, or a teacher from work. I didn't doubt her. Not because I trusted blindly, but because I wanted to trust. I wanted this to be the life we dreamed about, not the one that was falling apart in front of me. You tell yourself stories when you're in love. You ignore the silence. You explain away the distance. You blame the job, the stress, the city, the world, anything except the person you sleep beside. Until one night, the silence got too loud. She was on the couch. I came in late from a call. Smelled like smoke. My back was killing me. I asked how her day was. She smiled faintly, said, "Fine," then kept typing on her phone. I sat beside her. She shifted away, just slightly, but I felt it. I kissed her on the cheek. She didn't look up. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, something inside me whispered a truth I wasn't ready to hear. She wasn't mine anymore. She used to wait at the door when I came home, arms wide, smile wide. Now, she barely looked up from her screen. And I didn't know it then. But on that very screen, she was making plans to erase me from our life completely. I didn't say anything that night. I just lay there, eyes open, pretending to sleep. The next morning, I got up early and made her coffee, just like I always did. 1 sugar, no cream. She mumbled a thank you, kissed me on the forehead like I was a child, and walked off to take a shower. That was the first time I noticed it. She never brought her phone to the bathroom before. But now, it never left her side. Not even when she slept. I told myself it was just habit. People are glued to their phones these days, right? But something inside me, something I had learned from years in the fire department, started quietly ringing an alarm. You see things in this job. You learn to read smoke before you see flames. You learn that silence sometimes means something's about to explode. Over the next few weeks, I started paying attention. She changed her passcode. I only noticed because we used to have the same one, the date of our anniversary. Now, it was different. She entered it fast, thumb angled inwards, guarding it from view like a teenager hiding texts from her parents. She stayed late at school, more. Staff meetings, she said. Budget workshops. But she came home dressed differently. like she'd been somewhere nicer. Her hair curled, makeup fresh, like she had just gotten ready, not like she was winding down from work. And when I asked, gently, without accusing, she'd just smile and say, "Why are you being weird?" So I stopped asking and started watching. One Friday night, she said she had a faculty event, a fundraiser. No spouses allowed. I nodded, smiled, and helped her zip up her dress. Told her she looked beautiful. She kissed me, grabbed her clutch, and left. I waited 2 minutes. Then I got in my truck and followed her. She didn't go downtown. Didn't head to the high school. She took a turn and pulled into a little restaurant tucked behind a gas station. One of those overpriced tapas places with no signs, just candlelight in the windows. I stayed in the truck. Watched from across the lot. 10 minutes later, he walked in. Mid-40s. Button-down shirt. Beard trimmed, too clean for a teacher. He kissed her cheek, then her lips. Held her hand across the table. She laughed, that laugh I hadn't heard in months. I didn't rage. Didn't scream. Didn't storm inside and flip the table like you see in movies. I just watched. Quiet. Processing. It was like watching someone else's life. She wasn't my Claire anymore. She was a stranger. And that man? That was no coworker. I went home that night and sat in the dark for hours. I didn't drink. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there, replaying every moment from the past 6 months. Every hug that felt off. Every lie that sounded too smooth. Every little detail I'd ignored. I wanted to confront her. I wanted to demand answers. But something in me said, no, not yet. So I waited, and I watched. Over the next few days, I noticed her phone never left the charger when she was home. But at night, after she thought I was asleep, she'd pick it up and start typing furiously under the covers. She thought I couldn't see. She didn't know that light glows bright in the dark, even through eyelids. One night, around 2:07 a.m., her phone buzzed. She didn't notice that I saw it light up. The name on the screen? Mark B., consultant. I memorized it. That name stayed in my head all night. The next morning, I typed it into Google. And what I found was the first real crack in the world she'd built on my back. I couldn't sleep after I saw that name. Mark B., consultant. It sounded innocent enough. But something about it felt rehearsed. Like she'd picked that label carefully, just enough to blend in, just enough to not raise suspicion. The next morning, after she left for work, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. Coffee cold. Hands clenched. I searched everything. Mark B., consultant. Chicago. Small business strategist. Local startup mentor. And there he was. Mark Benson. Director of a boutique startup fund, focused on launching small businesses with potential female founders. The man was all over social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. And there, under a photo from a local small business awards event, was Claire, my wife, smiling, holding hands with him, standing next to a giant check that read, "Seed investment, $150,000, Benson Capital." My last name wasn't on it. I clicked through the tags, the comments. She had started a business, a handmade decor store, using our savings. Savings, she told me, were tied up in a new IRA account. She lied. And the worst part? The account she used? It was ours. Joint. She didn't ask. She didn't warn me. She just took it. Everything. All 12 years of savings. I sat there in my own kitchen, the walls closing in. That feeling, like when a building's about to collapse, and you feel it a second before it happens. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just got up, walked over to her desk drawer, and opened it. She always kept her files there. Neat folders. Passwords scribbled on sticky notes. I found one labeled LLC Client Docs. Inside, a signed agreement. Claire Monroe and Mark Benson, co-owners of Lavender and Sage Interiors. That's when I stopped being the husband. Stopped being the fool. Stopped being the one who just watched. I didn't confront her that day. I didn't call her. I didn't even text. I just sat in the dark, in that same kitchen, and whispered one sentence to myself. I didn't cry that night. I started planning. I knew I couldn't act emotionally. I'd spent 14 years in the military, trained to read patterns, stay patient, and strike only when the outcome was certain. This wasn't war, not in the traditional sense. But it sure as hell felt like one. And the first rule of winning a war? Don't let the enemy know you're preparing for one. So I smiled when she came home that night. Even offered to pick up dinner. She thought I was being sweet. She had no idea I'd already made my first call to an old friend of mine named Dale. Ex-Army. Now a forensic accountant. I didn't explain much. Just said, I think someone close to me moved funds from our joint accounts without permission. Can you help me track it, legally and thoroughly? He didn't ask questions. Within 48 hours, I had a full breakdown. Transfers, dates, routing numbers. It was all there. Claire had drained over $148,000 in a series of quiet wire transfers over 5 months. She had forged 2 digital approvals in my name. That's federal fraud. I printed every single document and backed it all up to an encrypted drive, copies stored with Dale, one in a USB tape behind the HVAC vent in my home office, and one mailed to my brother with no return address. Then I started watching them. Not stalking. Observing. Tracking. Mark drove a black Tesla. Liked to park 3 blocks away from our house and walk over like he was just in the area. I installed a security camera at the side alley. Hidden. Motion activated. It caught everything. Their smiles. Their hugs. One kiss at my front door while I was supposed to be at the VA hospital for my checkup. She invited him inside. My home. That night, I didn't sleep. I wrote a list. Operation Clean Slate. Compile evidence of financial fraud. Record visual proof of affair. Secure personal assets. Consult with lawyer, divorce and criminal grounds. Trigger confrontation only when all pieces are in place. Step number 3. Silent legal setup. The next day, I walked into an office downtown. A divorce attorney named Jenna Roth, recommended by another vet. She had a reputation for 2 things: brutal precision and absolute discretion. I told her everything. Showed her the evidence. Her first words? Do not tip her off. She's already hanging herself. Let her finish the knot. Jenna filed for a silent petition, a way to initiate divorce without serving the other party immediately. It gave us time to collect more. We filed a claim of marital asset theft, prepared charges for identity fraud, prepared subpoenas for her business bank account, and then we played the waiting game. Step number 4. Let them get comfortable. For 3 weeks, I acted like nothing was wrong. I kissed her on the forehead when she left for work. I sent her flowers once. I even liked her fake business Instagram posts. She started to relax, So did Mark. One night, I got a message from an unknown number. A screenshot. It was Mark texting someone. She says he's clueless. He still thinks she's just decorating houses, lol. I saved the screenshot. 2 days later, they flew to Miami for a Bidner convention. Claire told me it was a client retreat. I called Jenna. We're ready. By the time they returned, everything was in motion. Subpoenas had been approved. Claire's business account was frozen. Her emails were being pulled. The police had begun reviewing the fraud complaint. She came home tan, smiling, handed me a souvenir keychain from Florida that read, "Life's better when you're in love." I smiled right back. But inside, I was already gone. She'd taken my money, my home, my trust. Now I was taking her illusion of safety. She thought I'd never fight back. But she forgot I'd been trained to win wars without raising my voice. The day it all went down, the house felt quieter than usual. Too quiet. Claire was getting ready for a meeting, one of those business pitches she'd been bragging about for months. Mark was supposed to pick her up in an hour. But none of that would matter anymore. I sat in the living room with Jenna, my attorney, going over the final details. Our evidence was ironclad. The financial fraud, the secret bank accounts, the affair, everything meticulously documented. I looked at Jenna. She smiled, but her eyes were sharp, like a hawk about to dive. "It's time," she said. The courtroom was packed when Claire and Mark arrived. There was a mix of surprise and smugness on their faces, like they expected this to be another lost fight. But they didn't know the storm coming. I stayed calm. When it was my turn to speak, I walked up, took a deep breath, and played the audio file I'd recorded secretly a week before. Claire's voice echoed through the courtroom, caught on a call with Mark. "He's a fool. He won't suspect a thing until it's too late. The house, the money, it's ours now." Gasps filled the room. Claire's face drained of color. Mark looked like he wanted to disappear. Then Jenna presented the bank statements, transfers, forged signatures, receipts for luxury gifts neither of us could afford. She laid out the story plainly, but with undeniable force. "This is theft. This is fraud. And it's a betrayal of trust on every level," Jenna told the judge. I watched as the judge nodded slowly. Claire tried to speak, to explain, but her words fell flat. There was no defense for this. After hours of testimony, the verdict was clear. Claire would have to repay the stolen money, lose all rights to the house, and face criminal charges for fraud. Mark was ordered to stay away, and the judge even issued a restraining order. Justice wasn't just served, it was delivered cold and clean. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not because revenge had ended, but because the war was finally over. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't broken down. I had stayed silent, calculated, and won. That night, alone in my quiet home, I thought about everything I lost. The trust, the years, the life I thought we built. But I also thought about what I gained. Freedom, peace, and a chance to rebuild. The hardest battles are often the quietest. But winning them, that's what truly defines you. Months have passed since the courtroom drama, and my life has slowly begun to settle into a new rhythm. It's quieter now, not empty, but peaceful in a way I never imagined possible during those dark days. The house, once a battleground, now feels like a sanctuary. I've taken back control of my life, not by holding on to anger or bitterness, but by focusing on healing and rebuilding. Every morning, I remind myself that although she took everything, our savings, our trust, our shared dreams, There's one thing she could never touch: my soul. That resilience, that unbreakable part of me, is what I'm rebuilding from. In the weeks after the trial, I started therapy, something I'd resisted for years. It was hard at first, digging through the pain and betrayal, but it's helped me find clarity. I learned that revenge wasn't my true victory. The real win was reclaiming my sense of self-worth and dignity. The people who truly matter stood by me. Friends who listened without judgment, family who never doubted me, and even strangers who reached out after hearing my story. Their support became the foundation of my recovery. I also realized that life doesn't have to be defined by what others do to you. Instead, it's about how you respond. I chose to respond with strength and grace. I started volunteering at a local veterans center, sharing my story and helping others who face tough battles, both abroad and at home. It gave my pain purpose and showed me that even in the darkest moments, there's a way to find light. As for Claire, I don't hate her anymore. I won't pretend it was easy to forgive, but I understand now that holding on to anger only keeps you chained to the past. She made her choices, and I made mine. My future isn't tied to her mistakes or her betrayal. If there's one lesson I want anyone listening to take away, it's this: life will knock you down, sometimes when you least expect it. But the power to rise again is within you. It might not be fast, or clean, or easy. It might be messy, painful, and slow. But if you hold on to your inner strength, if you refuse to let your spirit be broken, you can rebuild from the ruins. She took our life savings to start a business with her lover. She never expected what I'd do next. But it wasn't revenge that changed me. It was the decision to fight for myself, to protect my dignity, and to rebuild my life on my own terms. This isn't just my story. It's a reminder that no matter how dark the night, dawn will come. And when it does, be ready to stand tall. If you're going through something similar, don't lose hope. You're stronger than you think.